We always tend to carry our parents with us. And this is just as true whether we are still living under their roof, whether we are living thousands of miles away, or whether we're living on entirely different planes of existence because they have left their bodies and passed away. One of the topics that comes up in satsang so frequently is the subconscious, the unconscious, and how we've been programmed by the voices that we heard, not just with our ears, but with every cell of our being in our childhood. And there's no voice more powerful than the voice of the parents. And it's not just the words they spoke. It's not just the sound waves that emanated from their mouth and hit our inner ear and, caused a reaction in the brain. But it's literally the impressions upon our psyche, upon our consciousness. And so you have a question, a father who was dominating. It's a common situation, who also happened to be the boss, a less common situation, at least the official boss. And he's passed away, but the person asking the question is still carrying him with him. And this is one of the real tragedies of our life. That which impacted us when we were young, that which laid its impressions on our psyche, in a way other than that which helped us to grow and evolve and open and expand, but everything that we were taught, whether directly, whether they said, sit down and listen to this and learn it, or whether we absorbed it simply by the way our parents lived, by the way they spoke to each other. Because that's also how kids learn. Sometimes as parents, we think that the only thing we're teaching them is when we say, sit down and listen, I'm going to teach you something. But actually, how we live teaches them. How we speak to each other teaches them. And in fact, it teaches them and imprints upon them even more than the stuff that happens when we say, sit down, shut up, and listen, I'm teaching you something. This is where you get, so many times parents will come in and they'll say, God, I don't know what's happened to my child. He or she has become so untrustworthy. They lie to me all the time. And, I don't know what to do. They're not spiritual the way that I'd like them to be spiritual. And if you could rewind life 10, 15 years, what you'd find is numerous situations where we as spiritual people, as good people, as what we think of as honest people, people with integrity. So many situations in which, for example, we were supposed to meet someone for dinner. We're running late. We're getting dressed. The phone rings. We see it say the name of the person who we're supposed to be meeting for dinner. And we say to our child, Acha, pick it up and tell them we're on the way. Or we're in the shower. We're not in the shower, but the phone rings and we say to our child, pick it up and tell them I can't talk, I'm in the shower. Tell them I'm not home. These tiny little, what most of us don't even consider lies. But they are lies, in that they are not the truth. These little things that we think of as so harmless, so innocuous, just part of life, actually imprint so deeply upon our children that when they grow, what they learn is, oh, the truth is inconvenient? Oh, You don't want to tell someone the truth? No problem. Just tell a lie. You're running late? No problem. Tell them you're on the way. And then, of course, we can't understand where these children have gone astray, have gone awry. So our parents, what they prioritize, what their values are, how they speak to each other, how coming home from a party, our mom and dad are, talking to each other, not even talking to us, but talking to each other about, God, so-and-so, God, that was the same sari she wore last week to the wedding. I wonder, God, how could she possibly wear the same sari, 2 weeks in a row? Or, God, she had that beautiful diamond necklace, and you make so much more than he does. How could he afford a diamond necklace? You couldn't afford one? God, look at how nice she was to him. She brought him, a drink. She brought him a plate of snacks. You never bring me anything like that. Why don't you take care of me the way she was taking care of him? Or just general gossip. God, she got fat. God, he seemed to be flirting with someone else. I wonder what's going on in their marriage. Right? Little stuff. You'd say, well, it's harmless. Well, it may be harmless between the mother and father who are just amusing themselves at the expense of another, polluting the air, you could say. But to the child, it's actually much deeper. What the child is learning, A, is how to have two faces. How to be one way in front of people and how to be an entirely different way when you get in the car. The child is learning that material things are of great importance. Look, mom was so happy with dad in the car on the way to the wedding, but now they're having this huge fight because mom wants to know why dad doesn't buy her a diamond necklace the same way that this other guy bought his wife one. What that means is the presence or absence of this necklace determines mom's mental state. Material things matter, which mean, take it forward a step. God, I better not even think about being the artist or the musician I wanted to be, or the monk I wanted to be, or the teacher I wanted to be, because those people don't make any money. God, if I'm ever going to make a woman happy, I better go become something that makes a lot of money. Because someday my wife is going to want to know why I didn't buy her the diamond necklace. And these are the things that are imprinting so deeply on our children. How we look matters a lot. Look, mom and dad are talking about this lady or man who gained a few pounds. That's the subject of conversation. So what we teach our children just energetically determines who we are. And then, of course, when we grow decades later, so the boy who had, wanted to be an artist, who became the engineer so that someday he could buy his wife a diamond necklace, well, 25 years later, he doesn't have any recollection of the wedding that they were coming home from when he was 8. He has no recollection of mom being upset that she didn't have a diamond necklace. He has no idea, in fact, how he ended up an engineer. His own kid says to him, well, Dad, when did you decide you wanted to be an engineer? And he can't recall because he never really did decide. This is how our lives happen. And so, circling back to the question, we have the dad who's dominating, who's authoritative, who's the literal boss. Well, yeah, I'm going to carry that around in my psyche. The fact that dad's no longer in his body is irrelevant. I don't need him to shout at me in person or over the telephone. I can shout at me in my own head in his voice even better than he could do it on the telephone. I've been perfecting it for decades. And this is where a spiritual practice coupled with a psychological practice is so important. Otherwise, we literally end up, we're not the victims of our childhood, but we're the victims of our own inability, disinterest, lack of awareness of the patterning of our own brains and how it's determining how we live. So it's not that it's my mom's fault or my dad's fault or my uncle's fault or my teacher's fault. They were doing the best they could. You know, one of the things that I always find really powerful is for most of us, our parents, when we were young, were in their 20s. Mid-20s, late 20s. Now, how many people here, raise your hand if you're over the age of 30? Okay, so almost everyone. Now, think about 25-year-olds you know. Okay? Anyone here right around 24, 25, 26? All right, great. You guys stand up for a second. Just stand up for a minute. You don't have to do anything. We just need to look at you. Okay? Ah, fantastic. Lots of you. So now, everyone have a good look at them. Do these look like all-knowing, all-powerful beings? They look like kids. Right? I mean, you're beautiful. And you're kids. You can sit back down. Thank you. But as children, our parents they're all powerful. They're all knowing. And when they say to us, either with their words, you're stupid, you idiot, you're worthless, or when they say it without their words. When what we learn is that when we come home with a good grade on an exam, we get lots of hugs, lots of love. We clean up our room, we get cookies, we get lots of hugs, lots of love. We don't do well on an exam, we don't clean up our room so well. Mom's mad, dad's mad, or at least they're withdrawn. At a minimum, they're withdrawn. Do better next time, right? And what we learn is that love, that sense of worth is dependent upon not who we are, but how we perform. How clean our room is, how well we answered the questions on the exam, determines how worthy we are of mom and dad's love and hugs and kisses. And now, when we look at our beautiful sisters and brothers who just stood up, who are kids, we can all look at them, those of us over 30, can look at them and say, they're beautiful, they're wonderful. Yes, of course, their souls are ever expansive and all-knowing. But yeah, they're kids. And none of us would ever expect them to be all-knowing, all-powerful, to always have a full toolbox of ways to respond in every situation, to never say things that they shouldn't say. I mean, we don't do that, even those of us who are over 30. But especially at that age. But that's the age at which our parents are imprinting upon our psyches that which we're going to carry with us for the rest of our lives. In a moment of anguish, maybe in the moment of her own divorce, maybe in the moment of her own alcoholism, maybe in the moment of her own self-judgment that she carried from her father, our mother said to us, you'll never be anything. If you can't even clean up your room, for God's sakes, you'll never be anything. Well, at 40, at 45, at 50, when we find ourselves unable to stick with anything, unable to believe in ourselves, we don't remember mom saying that to us. But what we know is there's something wrong with me. We've carried that deep sense with us. And so this is where the only way to undo it, not undo the love of our parents, not undo the presence of these wonderful people who, regardless of what they did, really were doing their best. Their best may not have been what we always would have hoped, but they were absolutely doing the best that they could at that time with their toolbox. To undo that impact, you've got to get back into the subconscious and unconscious, because that's where it is. And this is where our spiritual practices are so important. This is where going within is so important. This is where psychological practices are important. It's where ritual is important. It's where anything that can get us deeper than just our intellectual mind. Because this is now on the level of the psyche. And so to the person who asked the question, what I would say is, identify the voice of your Father in your mind, simply so that when it comes up, you don't mistake it for the inner voice of the divine. Because a lot of times we do that. We think, that's my intuition. My intuition says I'm worthless. No. Someone in your life once said it, and you internalized it so deeply that it now feels like your inner voice. So if you can identify it, if we can simply become aware of, that was my teacher, that was my camp counselor, that was the guy next door who hated the sound of me practicing the trombone every day and told me that I would never be a musician. Hated the sound of me, tap dancing around the backyard, and told me that I would never be a dancer. That's his voice. Okay. That's mom's voice. That's dad's voice. And then as they come inside in our lives, what we're able to do is just sort of bow to them. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. Hi, neighbor. Hi, teacher. I'm so glad you're still with me in presence, but I don't need that message anymore. It wasn't even true when I was 7, and it's certainly not true now. But it takes work. It takes work. You can't sadly just snap your fingers and make it go away. But grace, prayer, ritual, meditation, all of these things coupled with a practice of awareness. This is what light is. When we speak about enlightenment, it's the light that goes on. And when the light is on, all of that ignorance, all of that fear that's generated out of the darkness, it's over. But you've got to have the experience. It's not enough to tell it to yourselves intellectually. It's like if you imagine that a child wakes up in the night and she's screaming and crying because there's a monster in the closet. She can see it. She sees the monster there in the closet. She's screaming. Mom comes in the dark, and Mom says, "It's okay, sweetheart. It's not a monster. It's a jacket on a hanger." Now, the child trusts Mom. Mom may even say, "Trust me, honey. I'm telling you. I promise. It's not a monster. It's a jacket on the hanger." And the child will be a little bit calmed, but not completely. Yeah, she believes Mom. Yeah, she trusts Mom, but she looks over there, and that is a monster. And when Mom leaves the room, she's still going to be afraid. Maybe not as afraid, because Mom has promised her, and there is that faith in Mom. But chances are she's still not going to be able to go back to sleep because there is a monster in the closet. But if Mom had come in and had actually turned on the light instead of just convincing her in the dark, so that with her own eyes she could see the jacket on the hanger, the fear would be gone immediately. Mom would no longer have to say, "Don't worry, sweetheart, it's only a jacket." And even if the light got turned back out, that fear would never be able to be regenerated because she had seen, she had experienced, it's just my jacket. And this is really the difference between just getting something intellectually. It's not that it doesn't help at all. It does help on some level. Particularly when we get it from a source in whom we have trust or faith. This is what religion gives us. That's what spirituality gives us. We hear a guru, a mentor, a guide, our priest, our rabbi, a minister, somebody, or we read it in a book, tells us. And it helps a bit. But in order for really the ignorance to go, the fear to go, all that stuff to go, the light has to come on. We have to actually experience the light. And that's when we talk about enlightenment. It's literally the light is on. I get all of that which I thought existed. It's not what I thought it was at all. I thought I was this separate being over here. I'm not. I thought you were that separate being over there. You're not. I thought this whole game was all about, what I look like and what I earn and what I achieve. And actually it's not. But experiencing that in the light is much, much more powerful than just having somebody tell it to me. And this is why we meditate. And this is why we pray. This is why we chant. This is why we do so many different things, and it doesn't matter what your religion is. And it doesn't matter how you meditate or how you pray or how you connect with God. Whether it's at the foot of the tree in your backyard, whether it's in a official, temple or synagogue or mosque or church. Doesn't matter. As long as you connect, because that connection is actually what rewires us internally. And that's what's needed.